Hey YouTube, in today's video I will be doing a review of my 2023 Transition Relay. In this video I will be covering the pros and cons of my experience with this bike, and then I will end it off with a conclusion on how my experience has been and if I would recommend the bike. Starting off with the pros, some of the things I've liked about the bike are the fact that it has a removable battery. So one thing that sets this e-bike apart from a lot of other e-bikes is that the battery can be removed. This is especially useful when e-bikes are not allowed in certain trails, or if I decided to purchase a second battery and wanted to extend my sessions. Another pro was that it is lighter than regular e-bikes. Although I have not ridden a full powered e-bike, when comparing this bike with a full powered e-bike, this bike is significantly less in weight. My bike is considered the heaviest and burliest build, the X01 B&W version, which weighs in at about 45 pounds, and comparing it to full-size e-bikes that can weigh upwards of 50 pounds, I think this bike is considered the lighter SL e-bike. I'm also surprised by this bike's ability to be planted, but also then get off the ground easy and be able to jump. Since this is my first ever e-bike, I was worried that this bike would feel sluggish and would feel like a brick when jumping. But surprisingly, I have found the bike to not be that much of a difference compared to regular enduro bikes. Sure, I do feel the weight when jumping, but I get surprised by the bike's willingness to leave the ground, especially when having it in a mullet setup.
That rock caught me right there. Ooh, very overgrown.
Another pro is battery life. Battery life is surprisingly well. I was a bit unsure of how the battery would perform given this is an SL e-bike, but I have found that I can do about 2,000 to 3,000 feet of climbing in between medium and high powered modes, and will end the ride with about 40% remaining. Even when I use the bike in breeze mode, which is the lowest power assistance, I find myself having more than 50% of battery after an all-day adventure.
Alright, let me slow down just a little bit.
Configuration was also another key reason why I liked this bike, was mainly its ability to be run as a full 29er or 27.5 in the rear to make it a mullet setup. Along with the different wheel sizes, I really like that I can configure the suspension as well, having the ability to run 160 front, 160 rear, or 170 front and 170 rear. There's just so many different combinations to try, and really lets me customize the bike to where I'm riding. Usually I run the bike as a mullet setup in 170, 170, but recently I went to a bike park and swapped out the 27.5 rear for a full 29er at the bike park.
Oh yeah.
Moving on to the cons, my first con is that the battery door is kind of flimsy. The door on the down tube is removable and locks in at the top, but it is not really tight fitting. I noticed when putting my bike on the bike rack and driving at highway speeds that the door will open up slightly and it looks like it can just fly right off. To fix this, I have added some straps to make it more secure, but it does suck that I have to add in these straps, but I hope in the second iteration of this bike that Transition can fix this problem. My second con is that the battery fell out while I was riding. This kind of coincides with the first con, but the battery did fall out of the bike when I was riding over some technical rocky terrain. I wish this was a user error, but I had everything locked down and even had an additional safety strap to the battery, but it still managed to fall out. I have it on video falling out and we'll call it out in that clip. I'm not too sure if this was just a one-time occurrence, but I will keep an eye on it and make sure to have an update on this when I hit 1 year of owning this bike. Something that also just recently happened was that I had a random power loss while on a ride. This recently occurred, and not sure if this will be a one-time thing, but when I was riding up at Dodge Ridge Bike Park, the motor was cutting in and out of power, and then eventually I lost full power. My initial thoughts were that the Fazua motor was broken, but then after plugging in the bike to the Fazua toolbox and recalibrating the bike, it started working normally. I used the bike once after this occurrence and have not had any other problems, but I will be monitoring this to see if it will be a constant problem. Another con that is a small one is I think Transition could have done a better job with quality control on this bike. Most of the pivots were loose when I initially had the bike, and then when I went to tighten them up, the paint chipped around the pivot. It does not affect the bike other than looks, but I think when spending almost $9,000 I would expect better quality control from Transition. In conclusion, I believe this bike is good, but not exactly what it was marketed as. It does not serve its intended purpose of being a 2-in-1 bike. Without the battery, it kind of rides like a boat. It needs the battery because of that 4-pound difference is significant with the riding characteristics. But when riding with the battery, it gives the bike a more proportionate feeling. Overall, I don't think I would recommend this bike in its current state. I believe that there are still some small nuances that will need to be figured out, but hopefully within a year or two, this bike and most other e-bikes will be more reliable, lighter, and better handling. Just to be clear, I don't regret my purchase of this bike, but if I was someone looking to buy this bike or an SL e-bike, could wait another 2 to 3 years, I would. Thank you for watching, and if you have a Transition relay and agree or disagree with my opinions, please leave a comment, or if you're thinking about purchasing a Transition relay and have a concern, feel free to comment. If you like this video or found it useful in any way, please leave a like, and if you would like to see more content, please consider subscribing. Thank you.